Prime Minister Robert Fico's life hung precariously in the balance. Surgeons worked tirelessly, battling to repair the damage inflicted by the assassin's bullet. The nation held its breath, anxiously awaiting news of his condition. The attack, a brazen act of violence, sent shockwaves through Slovakia, leaving its citizens grappling with a mixture of fear, anger, and uncertainty. Fico, a polarizing figure in Slovak politics, was known for his strongman persona and his unwavering grip on power. His policies, often criticized for their populist slant and erosion of democratic norms, had created deep divisions within the country. This assassination attempt, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and order, thrust Slovakia into uncharted territory. The gravity of the situation was palpable. The attack on Fico wasn't just an assault on an individual, it was an attack on the very fabric of Slovak democracy. As the nation waited for updates on Fico's health, a sense of unease permeated the air, a chilling realization that the political landscape had been irrevocably altered. The assailant, a young man driven by a potent cocktail of political disillusionment and personal grievance, remains shrouded in mystery. His motives, though still under investigation, point to a simmering discontent that has long plagued Slovakia's political discourse. The attack on Fico was not an isolated incident, but rather a symptom of a deeper malaise, a reflection of the growing polarization and animosity that had come to define the country's political climate. Slovakia, a relatively young democracy still finding its footing on the world stage, had become increasingly fractured in recent years. Fico's leadership, while lauded by some for its economic stability, had also been marked by accusations of corruption and authoritarian tendencies. His opponents accused him of undermining democratic institutions, silencing dissent, and fostering a climate of fear and intimidation. This climate of tension, fueled by a constant barrage of inflammatory rhetoric and misinformation, created a breeding ground for extremism. The attack on Fico served as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked political polarization and the urgent need for dialogue and reconciliation. The future of Slovakia, it seemed, hinged on its ability to bridge these divides and find a path towards unity and healing. The attack on Prime Minister Fico reverberated throughout Slovak society, eliciting a wave of reactions that reflected the deep divisions within the nation. While some expressed shock and condemnation, offering prayers for Fico's recovery, others responded with a chilling indifference, viewing the attack as a consequence of his divisive policies and authoritarian leanings. The attack, far from uniting the country in a shared sense of outrage, instead seemed to amplify existing tensions. Fico's supporters rallied around their leader, framing the attack as an assault on their values and a desperate attempt to destabilize the nation. They pointed fingers at the opposition, accusing them of inciting violence and undermining democratic processes. On the other side of the spectrum, Fico's critics saw the attack as a manifestation of the deep-seated resentment that his policies had engendered. They argued that his authoritarian tendencies, his disregard for democratic norms, and his relentless pursuit of power had created a climate of fear and hostility, ultimately paving the way for such an act of violence. Section 4. The media's microscope shaping narratives and public opinion. In the aftermath of the attack, the media played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative and influencing public opinion. News outlets, both domestic and international, scrambled to provide up-to-the-minute coverage of Fico's condition, the investigation into the assailant's motives, and the potential ramifications for Slovakia's political future. However, the media's coverage was not without its biases. Some outlets aligned with Fico's government portrayed the attack as a cowardly act of terrorism, emphasizing the need for national unity and unwavering support for the Prime Minister. They downplayed the underlying political tensions and cast Fico as a victim of senseless violence. Other outlets, more critical of Fico's leadership, used the attack as an opportunity to highlight the erosion of democratic norms and the dangers of unchecked political polarization. They scrutinized Fico's policies, drawing connections between his rhetoric and the rise of extremism in Slovakia. Section 5. The Road to Recovery, Fico's Return, and the Political Landscape. As Fico began his slow and arduous recovery, The question on everyone's mind was how this brush with mortality would impact his leadership and the political landscape of Slovakia. Would he emerge from this ordeal a changed man, more willing to bridge the divides that had plagued his tenure? Or would he double down on his authoritarian tendencies, using the attack as justification for further consolidating his power? The answer, it seemed, was far from clear. Fico's initial pronouncements, delivered in a weakened voice, but with his trademark defiance, suggested a hardening of his stance. He vowed to crack down on dissent, blaming his opponents for creating a climate of hatred and intolerance that had culminated in this act of violence. However, beneath the surface of Fico's pronouncements, there were hints of a more nuanced approach. He spoke of the need for national unity, urging his fellow citizens to set aside their differences and work together for the good of the country. Whether these pronouncements were genuine or simply a calculated attempt to shore up his support remained to be seen. Section 6. Slovakia's uncertain future, navigating the path ahead. The attack on Prime Minister Fico marked a turning point in Slovakia's history, casting a long shadow over its future. The nation, still grappling with the trauma of the event, was left to confront a set of profound questions about its identity, its values, and its direction. Would this act of violence serve as a catalyst for healing and reconciliation, prompting Slovaks to bridge their political divides and forge a more united future? Or would it further entrench existing divisions, leading to a period of heightened political instability and social unrest? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The outcome, it seemed, would depend on the choices made by Slovakia's leaders, the resilience of its institutions, and the willingness of its citizens to engage in a process of dialogue and reconciliation. The future of Slovakia, in many ways, hung in the balance, a delicate dance between hope and despair, unity and division.